Thank you, sir, for those kind words. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go ahead with my talk, I would like to share some pleasant things with this august audience. Today, Dr. Kishan was awarded for his achievements. He was the topper for last year university exams in the medicine. I'm really proud to say that he was our student from Karnataka Institute of Medical Sciences. I feel doubly proud to say that he was in my unit and I was the PG guide for him. Kishan, I just want to tell you, we are as much proud as your parents are. Thank you for bringing that privilege to our institute. Thank you very much. The other thing that I would like to share with all this august audience is this program today has been organized by Cadila Pharmaceutical in the name of a very iconic person, Mr. Indravardhan Ambalal Modi. And I wish to say that I belong to that city where this pharmaceutical company is situated. My parents, they are still in Ahmedabad, my brothers are still in Ahmedabad, and I had some close association with this company when I worked at Gujarat Research and Medical Institute for almost 3 years in Ahmedabad. I wish to thank Mr. Das Gupta and his entire team for giving me this opportunity to be the speaker of this session. So now, without taking much time, I would like to start my talk. Today I'll be talking about the recent advancements in tuberculosis. I shall be touching upon these aspects. A brief introduction, followed by extent of problem, causes of resistance, recent advances in tuberculosis treatment part, the newer drugs in pipeline. Though so many drugs have been shown here, I'll be speaking mainly on 2 drugs, that is Vidarquilin and Risorin. Tuberculosis, as we know, is almost 4,000-year-old disease, but it still continues to persist as a global public health problem of serious magnitude which requires urgent attention. 95% of all tuberculosis cases in the world occur in the developing countries, our country being one of them. And almost about 70 to 95% of all TB cases have involvement of the lungs. So when we are talking about the treatment aspect of the tuberculosis, mainly I'll be talking about pulmonary tuberculosis. This is the map which shows the global burden of the tuberculosis. Some of the leading countries with high prevalence of tuberculosis are Russia, India, Southeast Asian countries, Sub-Saharan Africa, and parts of Latin America. And countries with a high prevalence of HIV infection have the greatest tuberculosis burden. So, coming to the historical aspect of the management of tuberculosis, the initial therapy was started, the line of treatment used to be monotherapy with streptomycin. But then one more drug was used and we used to treat tuberculosis using 2 drugs in 1950s, and the duration was about 18 to 24 months. Then by 1960s we started using 3 drug therapy, but the duration then was 12 to 18 months. This was further reduced. With 3 drug therapy, the duration of therapy was around 18 to 24 months, followed by 4-drug therapy which was introduced way back in 1970s, and the duration came down to 9 months. And now these days we are using DOTS, which has a duration of about 6 months. We all know this. The standard treatment of tuberculosis has intensive phase and continuation phase. In intensive phase, we use 4 drugs for 2 months, followed by 2 drugs for another 4 months. And these are the first and second line of drugs, which we all are familiar with. We can classify these groups by many ways. This is one of the classification into 4 groups: first line antitubercular drugs, injectable anti-TB drugs, fluoroquinolones, and oral second line antitubercular drugs. Now we have another group, the group 5, which contains clofazimine, linezolid, amoxicillin, etc. Why there was a need of second line drug? If we see the slides here, with the standard treatment we are able to achieve almost around 95% cure in HIV negative patients. So why was the need for second line? This was because of the drug resistance that we started facing. Now, what are those drug resistant cases? A patient is confirmed to have multi-drug resistant TB only by an RNTCP quality assured intermediate reference laboratory. Such patients are classified according to the following definition. The confirmed MDR-TB case is an MDR-TB suspect whose sputum culture positive, whose tuberculosis is due to bacilli that are resistant to in vitro or at least isoniazid and rifampicin. But not all cases are multi-drug resistant. So we have other classes. So we have drug-resistant TB. We use this term when the generic term is used to describe a TB strain resistant to one or more antitubercular drugs. Most commonly, it refers to MDR or XDR TB. Monoresistance is the strain resistant to one of the 5 first-line drugs. If the strain is resistant to one of the 5 first-line drugs, we call it as monoresistance. Polyresistance, the strains are resistant to 2 or more drugs, but not both INH and rifampicin. So there is a difference between polyresistance and multi-drug resistance. We call the patient as multi-drug resistant if the strains are resistant to both INH and rifampicin. We term the patient as XDR, that is extensively drug resistant, if the strains are resistant to both INH and rifampicin, a fluoroquinolone, and at least one second line injectable drug. Could be amikacin, kanamycin, or capreomycin. Now, this is a picture which has been taken from one of the publications by WHO, which depicts the WHO global tuberculosis scenario published in the year 2013. Globally, almost 3.6% of new and 20.2% of previously treated cases were recognized as MDR tuberculosis. And of these patients, an estimated 9.6% of MDR TB cases have been confirmed to be XDR TB. And these cases have been reported from 92 countries. This is a map which shows countries with extensively drug-resistant tuberculosis, where at least one case of XDR has been reported. So all this red, what we see globally, the incidence of XDR TB is increasing. Now this is the actual profile temporal profile of the tuberculosis. The patient comes with the primary tuberculosis. We put him on therapy. Many of them they respond, many of them they do not respond, and then they develop multi-drug resistant tuberculosis in their course of management. These MDR, if they are treated properly, we can still control the tuberculosis, but unfortunately there are many factors which work against these MDR tuberculosis, and then they develop into XDR TB. And now we are going beyond XDR TB. The term is totally drug resistant TB, and this was discussed in December 2011 in Mumbai in one of the conferences, and they proposed the term total drug resistance, where the patient is not responding to any of the drugs. And I am sure such senior physicians, senior consultants and experts are present in this august audience. You might have come across such patients who, in spite of putting them on XDR line of management, they are not responding. And such patients may be called as TDR. Now there are so many factors which are responsible for MDR, XDR and TDR tuberculosis. It could be related with the diagnosis. Diagnosis is one of the important aspects, because primary patients, when we are treating, we take the X-ray, we do the sputum, and we start the treatment. But when we try to reassess how effective our treatment is, we need to have expertise to establish that this patient is resistant to this particular drug. This cannot be done in a side lab. We need to have experts, we need to have facilities. That's what RNTCP registered lab, the role of such lab, because they have expert technicians there to do that. Unfortunately, our patients do not have access to such expertise in labs for many reasons. They are not accessible, and therefore we are not able to identify those patients and modify our line of treatment. And therefore, this becomes one of the factors for the development of MDR-TB. I would like to just narrate one of the incidents with this august audience. Currently, we are having one patient. He is from the rural areas nearby Hubli. He was diagnosed to have tuberculosis almost around 6 months back. He was put on primary line of treatment. But because they have to register their names, the doctor had prescribed, and doctor had conveyed his teammates to register his name and provide him the treatment. Unfortunately, lower down the line, somebody made to run him around for 3 months, and for 3 months he was denied treatment. Patient was willing, but he was denied treatment. I don't know for what reason. And now he has come back with empyema. And he has been established as a case of MDR for no fault of his. I mean, these are what I want to say is very small factors can lead to development of. If we are able to take care of those things, probably we can bring down the burden. The other aspects are the treatment related. It's a polypill. They have side effects. The treatment is prolonged. They have to come now because of the dots and all. They have to come and they have to take the pill. Because of the side effects, because of so many reasons, they are not able to take the pills and they land up with MDR. There are some diagnostic factors, some treatment related factors, patient factors. Then there are some genetics. Some people, they develop some mutation and therefore they develop resistance to that drug. So there are many factors which lead to MDR, XDR and TTR. There are mechanisms involved in MDR. Many mechanisms are involved and some of them are enzymatic degradation, mutation at the binding site, downregulation of the outer membrane proteins and efflux pumps. Now if we look at this scenario, the patient, if he is put on combination therapy and if the treatment is given in subtherapeutic doses, even for 4 days, it leads to activation of multiple efflux pumps and therefore he will develop, you can see here on the top, this one, he will develop low drug resistance. Further, if the drug is withheld for 8 weeks and all, then he will have all this bacterial replication will go on with subtherapeutic doses and ultimately he will acquire clinically detectable high level of antibiotic resistance. So just with 4 days or few weeks of denial of treatment, we are pushing the patient towards development of MDR or XDR TB. HIV and tuberculosis is a double trouble for the patient. And in our country, it's a common scenario. Most of the HIV patients, majority of the HIV patients, they do have tuberculosis, and many of the tuberculosis patients, they do have HIV. And tuberculosis is one of the leading cause of death among HIV infected people in developing countries. And the treatment is complex because the interaction between ARV and anti-TB drug is complex, and if there is an increased risk of adverse events. So what's the urgent need of the day? The urgent need of the day is shorter and simpler drug regimens that are safe, well tolerated, effective against drug susceptible and drug resistant tuberculosis. The drug should be appropriate for treating both the conditions, that is tuberculosis as well as HIV, because some of the drugs, for example rifampicin, it interacts with some of the ARVs and its efficacy is reduced. So we have to be very careful in selecting these drugs amenable to routine and programmatic condition. So the road to tuberculosis elimination goes through these steps. To stop transmission, early point of care and diagnosis is needed. The treatment should be safe and we should have effective vaccines and safe vaccines to neutralize the latent infection. Vaccine and drug regimen should be, newer drug regimen should be developed, vaccine should be developed. Treatment of active tuberculosis, we should use most effective drugs, rapid drug sensitivity test for all the drugs, and the drug regimen should be short and simple. Over the years and currently also, these are the drugs which are undergoing trial, and they are under the various phase of trial. I'll be touching upon two drugs. One is bedaquiline. It is an oral daryl-quinolone. It targets the ATP synthase. The activity is specific to mycobacteria. It has got bactericidal activity, which is comparable to rifampicin, INH and pyrazinamide in mice. It has got a sterilizing activity comparable to rifampin in mice, and it is synergistic with PZA. No cross resistance with other antimicrobial drugs like INH, rifampicin, ethambutol, PZA, streptomycin, etc. has been observed. It is also known as salturo and during the trial it was labeled as TMC 207. This was described for the first time in the year 2004 at Inter-Science Conference of Antimicrobial Agents and Chemotherapy after the drug had been under development for 7 years. So for 7 years they were trying to develop this drug, and first time it was discussed in 2004. And this is the first medicine specifically designed to treat MDR TB. During the stage 1 of trial, 47 newly diagnosed pulmonary MDR TB were randomized to receive bedaquiline or placebo in combination with the 5 drugs second line TB regimen as suggested by WHO. The dose for BDQ was 400 mg OD for 2 weeks and then 200 mg thrice weekly for 6 weeks. The baseline resistance for pyrazinamide, ethambutol, kanamycin, ofloxacin and etenomide was observed. What was important was the BDQ reduced the time to culture conversion and there were less adverse effects. So the time taken for the culture to become negative was reduced as compared to the earlier standard line of treatment without the addition of BDQ. This is the structure of BDQ. Further, this study was expanded and it was done at 15 sites, including countries like Brazil, India, Latvia, Peru, Philippines, Russia, South Africa and Thailand. They recruited more number of patients and they increased the duration. Earlier in the phase 1 trial they had given it for 8 weeks, now they increased the duration to 24 weeks. The dose remained 400 mg for 2 weeks followed by 200 mg thrice weekly for 22 weeks. And after 24th week, both the groups they were continued on 5 drug basic regimen total for 96 weeks. And what we observed here was the culture conversion at week 24 was significantly higher with bedaquiline versus placebo. We can see here 78% versus 57.6. So this drug had better efficacy. Approved by FDA in 2012 as a part of combination therapy in adults with pulmonary multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, it should be used only when an effective treatment regimen cannot otherwise be provided. The recommended dose 400 mg per oral for 2 weeks, 200 mg per oral thrice weekly for a total duration of 24 weeks. These are the provisional guidelines for bedaquiline. It may be used as a component of TB therapy when an effective treatment regimen cannot otherwise be provided. Can be administered along with DOT, duration 24 weeks, should be given with food, should be used in adults preferably. And it may be used with laboratory confirmed pulmonary MDR TB. Now there's a word of caution. This drug should be used on case-by-case basis in children, in HIV patient, pregnant women, patients with extrapulmonary MDR TB, and patients with comorbid conditions on concomitant medications. In such group of patients, it should be used cautiously. And there's a black box warning. It increases, an increase in all-cause mortality was observed, and there was a prolongation of QT interval, and therefore we need to monitor the ECGs. BDQ should be used with caution with other drugs that can cause QT prolongation, and ECGs should be monitored regularly. BDQ should not be used with rifampin or rifapentin, which are strong inducers of cytochrome P3A4. The second drug is Rizorin. It's an Indian innovation in the treatment of tuberculosis, and it's an outcome of joint research by CSIR, Jammu and Cadila Pharmaceuticals, approved by DCGI in the year 2009 for the treatment of drug-sensitive tuberculosis. We know that rifampicin is an important drug in treating tuberculosis, but it has got its own shortcomings, and the major limitations are poor GI and hepatic tolerance. The GI side effects and hepatic side effects are much more. It has got low and variable bioavailability. The subtherapeutic serum rifampicin levels may be persisting when the patient is on rifampicin, and it has multiple adverse drug-to-drug interactions. So this picture depicts the various sites, the drugs acting at various sites in a tubercular bacilli. What the Cadila people have done, they have boosted the rifampicin. The same rifampicin has been boosted by adding a drug called piperine. Now, what is the role of this drug and how it boosts the rifampicin? Now, we all know that rifampicin is a potent inducer of cytochrome P450 enzymes and P-glycoprotein in the liver and small intestine. Through these mechanisms, rifampicin is known to increase its own metabolism as well as that of other concomitantly administered drugs. Rifampicin is not only an inducer of P-glycoprotein but also a substrate for it, which can cause increased efflux of rifampicin and thereby reducing the availability of rifampicin. We are giving 450 mg of rifampicin thinking that the patient is having adequate bioavailability, but because of this factor, the bioavailability significantly comes down. This leads to decreased bioavailability of rifampicin. Now, piperine is a potent inhibitor of cytochrome P450 and P-glycoprotein 10, and thus increases the bioavailability of rifampicin. How effective is Rizorin therapy in treatment of tuberculosis? In a multi-centric randomized active controlled triple-blind parallel group clinical trial, the efficacy and safety of Rizorin was compared with that of standard WHO anti-tubercular regimen. They recruited around 216 patients with pulmonary tuberculosis and were randomly assigned into two groups. In one group, they gave the standard regimen as prescribed by WHO. In another arm, they removed the standard rifampicin and they added the boosted rifampicin. And here the dose of rifampicin was lesser than the standard regime. In standard regime we are using 450 milligrams. Here the dose was 200 milligram with 10 milligram of piperine. Of the 216 patients recruited in trial, 99 were assigned to group 1 and the rest to group 2. So what did they observe? They observed that the sputum conversion rate was 92.75% in Rizorin group, whereas it was around 85.39% in standard therapy group at the end of 4 weeks. So there was a significant difference. The cure rate at the end of 24 weeks was 92% in Rizorin group, whereas it was 81.5% in the standard therapy group. This is a comparison of conventional rifampicin versus Rizorin. And we can see here the serum rifampicin level are usually low and variable because of the reasons quoted already, whereas Rizorin will have high and sustained serum levels, and thereby the clinical efficacy will be actually low here in rifampicin and Rizorin at par with standard regimen. GI tolerance is poor with rifampicin, but it improves when we recruit Rizorin. Risk of hepatitis is very high with rifampicin. With Rizorin, this risk is reduced. Treatment adherence rate is low with rifampicin and high with Rizorin. So the Rizorin benefits are lower incidence of GI side effects, minimizes the risk of drug-induced hepatitis, better tolerability, and improved patient compliance. Benefits of improved adherence to the treatment, lower treatment failure rates, reduced relapse rates, minimized risk of development of drug resistance. So what's the place of therapy of Rizorin? Preferred choice in the treatment of drug susceptible pulmonary and extrapulmonary tuberculosis, particularly in conditions known to decrease rifampicin absorption. Patients who are not likely to tolerate 450 mg dose of rifampicin, and it would be ideal to switch over therapy for patients who develop intolerable GI side effects and hepatotoxicity with conventional 450 mg dose of rifampicin. It is a useful option in patients with high risk of developing drug-induced hepatitis, as for example, alcoholics, elderly, malnourished, and patients already having either hepatitis B or C, etc. To summarize, despite all the advances, tuberculosis still remains a major challenge. Newer drugs have potential to improve outcomes in multi-drug resistant tuberculosis for the treatment of drug-susceptible tuberculosis. Minimum 6 months of treatment remains the gold standard. Rizorin offers an equally effective but better tolerated option to conventional rifampicin, and it was observed in one of the studies that when we recruit Rizorin, the duration what we give normally for 6 months was brought down to 4 months. Thank you.